Now, here's a quiz question. What's the difference between 716 and 741? Besides the years. 716, 741. The 741, the big change there was it went to needle bearings for third and fourth, and also the cast iron insert for the pinion bearing and the main shaft bearing in the case. So the transmission got a lot stronger. If you look here, you can see the cast iron insert holding the pinion bearing inside the trans. That's an iron insert in the actual trans case. Up until 741, the main shaft bearing and the pinion bearing was held in aluminum.
Wasn't that just from the C train?
Pardon? Right. This starts B and C, late B, about 62 or so. This started showing up. And first gear got wider. The first gear set got wider on the 741 because the cast iron insert was lower down, so the actual freewheel part of the first gear got wider.
It'll go back and forth, but
So 644 and 716 ran, the pinion bearings ran right through the motor. So this is stronger.
yeah.
The cast iron insert didn't help first gear, so it did. Okay, that gives you a little idea. This shows you how the power from the engine gets out to the wheel. The ring and pinion is where it makes a right angle turn. This is where we go from this way to that way for the distributing power. It makes the right angle turn. Now, what's important about how the ring and pinion is put in the transmission? What's important about that? Exactly. What do we call that?
Pinion depth.
Pinion depth, backlash, preload. There's a whole bunch of things that we have to pay attention to when we look at the setup of the ring and pinion. In fact, Jacques has got over there on his cart the measuring tools for looking at both preload and backlash. Preload is how hard we're squeezing the differential, because we want to put some squeeze on there.
What part of it? What do you mean squeeze? The case out or what?
How much squeeze?
Well, no, where are you squeezing?
You're squeezing the differential right here by using a series of shims. These are called the S1, S2 shims. And these come in different thicknesses, anything from about 4.3 millimeters all the way down to 3.0 millimeters. They all come in increments. And so we can make the differential housing wider or skinnier, or we can move it left and right. Jacques can demonstrate that. But what's important, and one of the biggest single failures in doing transmissions that we see here is they don't get the preload right. If you take an old transmission apart with old bearings and you put new bearings on, the new bearings don't have exactly the right dimensions, and there is no preload. You've got to pay attention to that. Now, something that we're doing here, and we've been doing it now for about, I'd say 12 years or so, we found a tapered roller bearing. All 911s have tapered rollers. Now, what would an advantage of a tapered roller bearing be? Rust. The actual strength of the bearing. And what we can do with a tapered roller bearing is put more squeeze on the differential. We don't put a lot more, but we do put more squeeze on it. And the advantage to a tapered roller is it is not going to let the differential move as easily. With a ball bearing, what we call either a 2-point or a 4-point ball bearing, there's not as much strength to it. That's kind of the real reason I did that is because I couldn't find them one time, and so we started doing the tapered rollers, and I thought to myself, that's a pretty good idea. Why don't we do that all the time? So that's what we did.
You have to make any modifications to the bearing
Yes, the bearing itself can't be used right out of the box. So we have the bearing ground so that it has the right dimensions to it. It's a little too wide right out of the box. But that's all we do to it. And you'll see it on the limited slip that's in the other room there, the tapered rollers. And we've been doing this now for about 12 years or so, and we really like it. And what we do is we assemble the side covers and the housing with just the differential on it and the bearings, and then we get about a 4/1000 crush, just like on a 911. And so we can actually put more load on the differential housing by doing that, because the tapered roller bearings will handle that. I think it's just kind of a more modern deal.
What would be the symptoms of an incorrect preload? Noise and or...
Yeah, it's noise. It's basically noise. And I don't know that you can tell the difference between that noise and a ring and pinion that's not set up right.
Okay, okay.
Now, the next most important thing is getting the ring and pinion set up right. The transmission that we've got apart that we're going back together in there, all of the bearings, all of the gears, and the ring and pinion were bad in it because it had run low on oil. But it's also the ring and pinion went bad on the nose of the pinion shaft. In other words, the ring and pinion were not touching each other correctly. And it's a factory-done trans. It has not been apart before. In fact, it's low enough mileage that the synchros are pretty good. And yet all the gears are bad. So part of what it's really important to do in a 356 is to make sure or reset the ring and pinion. It seems like every single 356 transmitter we take apart, I'd say in the last 20 years, there was only one transmission that we took apart where I said to myself, gee, the setting was right, we could have just put it back together. One in 20 years. So, and the thing that gets that transmission, remember how when you were in high school, remember what you used to say about math class? You used to say, you know, I'll never use this stuff. Remember? I'm getting ready for that with my granddaughter. Okay, Didu, this is why you do math, all right? All right, upstairs. All right, Didu, you're listening? This is why you do math, okay? That's the world's greatest granddaughter right there.
I'll be coming down in a minute.
Okay, here's why you do math. In a perfect world, the pinion depth in a gearbox is 59.80 millimeters. If everything is right, you might get this right out. Okay.
That's if you assemble it on your shins. That's where
Right,
you'll end up.
right. That's the dimension.
I mean, that's how much gear engagement you have between the other.
No, that's the
That's the
center
distance.
line.
Yeah, the face to the center line of the axle. If you assemble it with no shins, it's
Right.
a theoretical distance. If you
It's a
didn't have
theoretical
anywhere in the
distance.
washers, or if the bearings weren't worn out.
Right. So if all the spacers are right on the pinion shaft and everything was at zero, that is the magic number, 59.80. But it's not a perfect world. You can't do it that way. So that's not how we do it. The pinion shafts come marked different ways. They'll come 59.20, 59.16. They'll come different ways like that. And we have to work from that dimension. Sometimes the pinion shafts are marked with a plus or minus 0.05 or an N5 or an N minus 5. So you have to know what the N number is. N number is another number. That's 5922. Correct. 5922. So, for instance, that transmission came apart with an N minus 5. So that's 5922 minus 0.5. That would be 5917. 5917 from 5980 is 60.63. So we should, if everything was perfect, we should see we should be exactly right in a perfect world at 6.60 hundredths shim, pushing the pinion shaft in 0.60. Now the problem is, you've got 3 different gaskets that go here. There's a 10 hundredths, a 15 hundredths, and a 20 hundredths. Aftermarket, they're now 8 hundredths, 12 hundredths, and 25 hundredths, right?